everybody. Today we are talking about the Parents' Bill of Rights. This bill was just passed by the House. Now, you have to consider, though, that it faces some headwinds as it goes into the Senate. So it could be passed by the Senate. There's doubts, though. So what does this Parent Bill of Rights require? It requires schools to post curricula publicly. It requires parents. So real quickly, just to make that clear, the curriculum needs to be posted for the public to see, not just privately, okay? Books and what you're teaching. Second, parents are allowed, this is the language, parents are allowed to meet with teachers. Another thing is that it demands that schools provide parents with information when violence happens. So when there's violence in the school, schools have to provide parents with that information. And finally, parents are required to receive a list of books and reading materials, and they must be accessible to all parents, the books and reading materials. So there are many reasons why I'm against this bill, but I will just ask this question. Before I get into the disagreements I have for it, Jake, my question to you is, why is the federal government involving itself with local districts?
That's a good argument. I don't know. I mean, this is definitely a local issue, and for it to be a federal law for everyone, I don't know. But if it's a local issue, the local city or school board should handle this. I'm with you on that.
Okay. And the video, I agree.
Oh, no. But I would say you said that you oppose a lot of the things. What's the one thing you oppose the most on this?
All of it. But we haven't heard from you.
No, I mean, I would have to disagree with you regarding, I mean, now I would agree with you. No. I would agree with you that it shouldn't be a bill that's being passed by the federal government. But if this was happening in my local school district, I would be concerned about a couple of these things for sure. I don't think there's a problem with having parent meetings with, I mean, do you agree with that? Or do you?
Wait. So it's not, though. The federal government is doing it, is imposing it.
Yeah, they're imposing it, but they're saying, hey, so I'm against the imposement, but how about the actual specific issues that if they...
We're going to talk about that. We'll talk about that. So in a way, we agree on that, but it sounds like you agree with the details. So let's talk about
the details. Yeah.
Let's talk about the details for a second.
Sure.
Oh, schools post curricula publicly. I don't really oppose that. Curriculum should be opposed. Schools post the curriculum publicly.
Yeah.
I guess I don't have a problem with
nothing to be afraid of.
I guess for me, I think that's an admin issue. I think admin it's contingent on the admin to do that, and I'm not sure if a law should be passed for this. Let's put that aside because I agree with that. Parents are allowed to meet with teachers. What do you mean allow?
I don't
think Jake, is there a rule at your school that prohibits parents meeting with teachers?
No.
So
they mean whenever, but for sure, at least 2 parent conferences a year. That's for sure.
So this language is weird.
Maybe it's because these people are not educators and they don't, maybe that's what they should have done.
Exactly. Which is what I think this bill is about. I think this is a political bill. This is the kind of bill that gets people elected because it sounds good. Parents' Bill of Rights. Oh, we need to give a Bill of Rights to parents. They've taken the schools away from parents. This gets people elected and reelected.
Sure.
So in this case, it's Republicans who
in the House.
I know both sides do it. But Jake, look at the rest of this. Parents are allowed to meet with teachers. Our teachers' main complaint, one of them, is that not enough parents go to parent conferences.
Yeah, I mean, I know in my school we have very few parents that come. So yeah, that's a big complaint.
So let me one up that verbiage, that language. Parents are allowed to meet with teachers. There's no rule that prohibits that.
Yeah,
it's absurd. How about admin should demand parents go to conferences? Sort of put it in the language and there will be some kind of, consequence if it doesn't happen. And if you can't meet because you are working, we're going to Zoom it.
Yeah.
We're going to Zoom it. We're going to do it on the weekend if we have to.
And
I'll have a cup of coffee while I Zoom with some parents I would love to talk to.
I like that word, that changing the words around there, having it more of a, hey, this is, you have to do this, right? But Ruben, I think the problem though is, I think what we're going to hear all the media in the next couple of weeks. I don't think that the Senate, which is mostly run by Democrats, are going to even hear this bill. I think it's going to die just right there.
Forget about that for a moment. Let's just talk about
why I'm saying that is because this is what we're going to hear, is that, hey, it's all about banning books, you know, and I think that's what we're going to hear a lot. It's going to be a lot of the censorship, because part of this bill says, hey, parents need to see the list of books that are in the library and so forth.
So
that's what we're going to hear a lot more.
That's the last point that's on the language. Parents receive a list of books and that reading materials are accessible. Now, we recently had Kenny Completo here, the librarian for Elizabeth Learning Center, and does he look like somebody who's trying to hide something?
No, he doesn't. You're right.
So how about we have administrators? To me, this is an administrative problem. I do not this bill is very poorly written. This sounds like more paperwork for teachers. This is about the 0.5% or less, 0.05% or less of teachers who teach, you know, Kendi, how to be an anti-racist, and CRT, right? Why are we creating more paperwork on the basis of those teachers who decide to teach those things? And by the way, why are we banning those books? So I know that Kendi has publicly complained recently that his books are being removed. So at some level, it's working. And I'm wondering, Jake, does this make a student stronger? Banning these books, and they therefore cannot argue against these books, and there's one ideology or a couple. Why not allow all books and points of view? Don't ban anything and create debates.
I would do both. I would say, hey, we want the debates. Let's not do banning. So I have no problem giving a list of books to parents, but I would say this is what this is how we're using these books. This is not about you saying we're not going to have these books. It's just, hey, here's a list, but they're not going anywhere. Because once you start banning books, you start having it's a rabbit hole you don't want to go through, because it gets darker and deeper, and your favorite book eventually is gone. But
so you agree?
I agree with there being a list of books, but I don't agree with banning of the books. I don't think it's a problem with parents knowing what's in the library, what's wrong, and I don't think too many parents are going to look at that list. But I have no problem whenever a parent wants to see something. There's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to be.
My only, I have a little bit more. I have more to the story in the sense of, okay, we agree, kind of, but I don't think it should be a law passed. I feel like that's going to create some more meetings, more laws. More rules and more paperwork for us. I think this is an administrator issue. If you go up and down this list, Jacob, this is an administrator issue. If you talk about school violence, should be announced to parents. Every time there's any violence at our school and surrounding schools, there's a mass email to all parents and staff. There was a shooting. Yeah. There was a violence. There was a threat of, we got an email about a threat of violence to another school.
But I think, Ruben, what it is,
it sounds like there's some incompetent administrators.
Well, if they're creating a bill like this, my thought is there must be a lot of incompetency out there if they're doing this. But I'm with you 100%. I don't think a bill needs to be written for this, because then you start bringing in the politicians, and they're wanting to get elected for these issues. But no.
So are you for the bill or not? Or are you going to take the middle?
No. I said I'm not for them writing this bill. I am,
so you're against the bill.
I am for these issues to be dealt with and talked about within the school district, within the school, because this is being proven. This is being proved. This bill is proving that there are some problems in some school districts, and they need to be addressed. So wherever you're at, this should be actually.
How do you address them?
This is what I'm about to say. Let me say it. This is how you address it. You get onto those school boards. You go to those meetings. You speak up. parents, because that's
Okay.
what the issue, right? Parents, there needs to be
Yes.
that dialogue. There needs to be that communication. You're not
Par-
always going to agree.
Parents and admin need
Yeah,
to be on the same page
they
here.
do.
Get to your parent. You want to know what your teacher is teaching? Get to the parent conference.
That's it.
Look
Amen.
at this website. Jake, there's teachers at my school who have websites that can be accessed by parents and anybody.
And I
See
think
what we're
right. I don't think you or I would be ever ashamed of what we're teaching. It's like, hey, I would love a parent to say, hey, I heard you guys. Yeah.
No, Jake, you or I. No, 98%, maybe 90% of teachers feel this way. They have
Sure.
they make it accessible, their curriculum. You've got this little sliver in which we all have to pay by doing more paperwork and having more meetings.
Don't you think it's that little sliver though, Ruben, that gets on TikTok, that gets on these social media sites, and then that makes it look like all teachers do this crazy stuff? That's also something that is.
Well, I don't know what you mean by crazy. I don't know what you mean by crazy stuff. What I'm suggesting is whatever somebody is teaching, debate it. You might think it's crazy, but you have to defend what you just said. Why you think it's crazy?
Right.
And you see what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like, okay, bring it out there. And then maybe debate won't be a thing of the past. We're also talking about another issue. They should check out this week, the Stanford issue, which is another quelling of debate. That's a problem in this country. So anyway, I think we've covered it.
We got it. Very good at this.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We said what we had to say. Goodbye.